Well, we can say goodbye to the dry air mass as heat and humidity will be spreading to the eastern U.S., particularly the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, and that's probably going to start to come with thunderstorm chances for Friday and through the weekend. We'll be talking all about that and a few other things as we get the Wednesday night, July 23rd, Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast underway. And you can support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast if you shop on Amazon. Use our referral link to get you to Amazon. And when you do your shopping, Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there. It's an easy way to support the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. It keeps the live stream commercial free, and it doesn't cost you 1 cent. So we thank those of you who have, and a lot of you have, because I get to see it. We thank you for shopping on our Amazon link. And if you're looking for a weather station, look no further than Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is pinned tonight to the top of the chat board, and it's also on the description to this podcast. And if you use the coupon code, there is a special Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast coupon code, Summer 2025. So if you do, you will magically get
10 big % off.
Yeah.
10. Yes.
Latex Dreams on the chat board. I have no idea why you need to refresh to see the show. That's your issue, not mine. Everything is fine on our end. So, it probably didn't feel too bad today, even though the dew points definitely came up a bit. But that's going to be different tomorrow, and it's going to be even more different on Friday. And it kind of looks down to me like there may be a fair chance for some thunderstorm activity. Not that we didn't think there wouldn't be, but it looks a little more widespread now. The models seem to be getting a little more bullish with the idea that there could be some strong thunderstorms late Friday afternoon into Friday evening.
And the question I have is, why is it that a lot of the short-term models are not going anywhere near as hot as what the forecasters have been going with? They've been saying temperatures that we've been talking about like mid to upper 90s on Friday. And yet when you look at the GFS, when you look at the NAM, right now I've decided I was going to check the La Plumes to see what they are going with as far as temperatures are concerned. And Joe, the highest temperature that Plumes is going for on Friday at LaGuardia is 91.45.
Wow. What about Newark? No, Newark is not one of the choices on the Plumes, is it?
Well, let's go to Newark and we'll figure it out together. Come on.
Is it one? Is it
difficult to get the little finger to point?
Right, the fickle finger of fate.
The fickle finger of fate.
Right.
So what are they going with? They're going for 90.47
for Newark. Interesting.
Now this is the NCEP SREF Plume.
Right.
3 hourly temperatures
for Newark, model.
The Newark, and as of 18Z, peaking at 90.47. Now there are
the way that happens is if clouds and thunderstorms roll in, say around 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, as opposed to say 4 or 5 o'clock.
Well, I was thinking that we were going to have a sunny start to the day on Friday, but quickly cloud over by about noon or 1 o'clock. Although I don't have anything in terms of convection, any thunderstorms mentioned until late afternoon or early evening. But I'll tell you, if you get a good cloak of clouds to move in by midday, that certainly is going to stop the temperatures from climbing. They may be rocketing upward. You may get to like 90 or 91 by 12 or 1 o'clock, but they ain't going anywhere if you have a thick cloud cover roll in thereafter. So clouds may be what the models are picking up on and holding temperatures down. Although, again, for the last few days, we've been saying like 95, 97, 98, record highs. And now that we're within striking distance, the models are about oh, anyway, depending on which model you're looking at, anywhere from between like 6 and 8 degrees cooler
Mm.
than what has been advertised for Friday.
Well, yeah. I think if it's a case of where thunderstorms come in faster, as opposed to later in the day, late in the day, that's probably where the difference is. Maybe the short-term models. Well, we'll take a look at those in a moment. By the way, I was cloudy for most of the day. We finally broke out to some sun around 3 o'clock or 3:30. I barely made 80 for a high this afternoon. In fact, right now I'm at 79. I had an inch of rain last night, which really made me happy because I didn't have to go out and water my yard today. So that was good. And probably going to see temperatures trend upward here if we get more sun over the next couple of days. And thunderstorm chances are kept to a minimum, but we'll see. The other thing I wanted to mention was as far as the weekend is concerned, I think you have to throw in the chance that there could be a thunderstorm Saturday. But I also think it's one of these deals where don't be shocked if it doesn't happen. On the other hand, there's a pretty decent shortwave coming through for Sunday, and the Europeans been keying on a fairly nasty looking complex of storms that forms along whatever boundary is coming through. So I think Sunday probably stands a better chance that we could see some thunderstorms, and I wouldn't be shocked both on Friday and on Sunday if there's some severe weather in the mix.
Well, there is where you and I differ. Looking at everything, I figured, well, if we're going to get thunderstorms, it'll be late Friday afternoon into maybe the first part of Friday night. But then to me, Saturday looks like a dry day. And in fact, even though the dew point temperatures on Saturday will still be at or above 60, it'll be noticeably down from what we're going to experience on Friday. But
Yeah.
Friday looks like dews near 70 and maybe like low 60s or low to mid 60s on Saturday. So still, the category says muggy on Saturday, but when you again compare it to what we have seen or will see on Friday, a bit of relief. But I agree with you. The next system coming in for Sunday looks to be a rather potent one, and we could see quite a bit of shower and storm activity with that system on Sunday. So the 2 weekend days, I would say, if you have anything planned out of doors, do it Saturday because Sunday looks like a day of clouds, widely wide. Not, I was going to say widely scattered, but there could be some uh, periods of potentially heavy showery rains for a good part of the afternoon or a good part of the day.
That wasn't that much different than what I said.
Well, you said you
I
would
said
meet
I
some.
said for Saturday you probably could put in a chance for a thunderstorm, but it's going to be the kind of day where if you don't get one, don't be shocked. So I'm leaning
Yeah,
dry. I just
yeah.
don't know that I would leave it out of the forecast. There might be a couple of inland spots where there could be some isolated storms. But Sunday is definitely going to be more widespread, and I'm just a little concerned with the dynamics that the model's been showing that the storms on Sunday could be on the strong side. That's where I'm at.
Right. And somebody
So
on the chat board was asking about, do we think, or is there the possibility that perhaps on Friday, that within that large, broad, marginal area, there might be an area of slight risk? And there might be. Think back to what we had on Sunday. Sunday started out with much of the Northeast under a marginal risk. That was for Friday and Saturday. And then Sunday, all of a sudden, they drew a relatively notable area of slight risk. But in the end, what happened? The area
it all wound up being up in New England.
up in New England, right? In fact, the one watch that was posted Sunday afternoon, the western edge hit the New York Connecticut border. And that's basically, that was a great forecast because that's where all the thunderstorms were in Connecticut. There were hardly any storms to speak of once you went west of the Connecticut border into New York State.
Yeah.
I know I could tell you that certainly where I live in western Putnam County, New York, we saw zilch in terms of any kind of moisture on Sunday.
Welcome tonight to everybody on the chat board and those of you watching in the background on this Wednesday night Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. We're here Sunday through Thursdays normally at 7:35 p.m. But however, we are taking tomorrow off because we want a long weekend. So we will be back. We'll be off tomorrow, and we will be back on back Sunday evening, which will be perhaps in time for thunderstorm activity for Sunday evening. We'll see. So subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And of course, if you like the show, by all means, hit the like button. We actually have some severe thunderstorm watches up tonight, which we did not have last night. We've got one across Kansas, north central Kansas into Nebraska, the other one in northeastern Wyoming into western South Dakota. Some flood watches in northeast Kansas, flood watches up in northern Wisconsin, and also into northeastern Minnesota, and a large area of heat advisories and extreme heat warnings from the lower Great Lakes all the way down the Mississippi River Valley to the Louisiana coast. And in the Northeast, we have some heat advisories up and extreme heat. It's good. You know what? It's so. I don't know about you. It's just so ridiculous. It gets hot. I mean, if you don't know by now what to do to stay cool, I mean, why do we have to go through this every time the temperature goes above 90? Oh my God, you're going to melt in place. I've just gotten really annoyed with it all, Joe. There was a simpler time where we just told people it was hot. When it got over 95, we told people it was very hot. When it got over 100, it was like, oh wow, it's going over 100, and that was kind of it. I just
And now we have this new terminology, the heat dome. The heat
oh,
dome,
it's
which
just I am tired of everything being apocalyptic. I am tired of every time something happens uh, weather-wise that's part of the general scheme of what happens during a season that it's as if it's never happened before. It's never gone to 90 degrees before. It's the Cuomo the Cuomo weather report. We never had storms like this back in the 1820s when I was a child. I mean, can we just put a stop to it? There's something else we need to put a stop to, which I'll get to a little bit later. Meanwhile, on the satellite loop, sun's starting to set across the Atlantic and into the east, and we have, I mean, really generally clear skies from Maine down into the Carolinas. I've just got this one area here in North Georgia where there's some clouds in southwest North Carolina and eastern Tennessee, and that's where I'm sitting. If I go to the south or to the northwest or northeast, I could still have some sunshine going on. 7:50 p.m. Eastern time here. Sunset's closer to 9 o'clock still. We have an upper trough that's moving southwestward into the Gulf. Okay, so if you need me to say it, for the Gulf of it's moving into the Gulf of Mexico for one group of people. It's moving into the Gulf of America for another group of people. Okay, and that is disorganized, continues to kind of plod along here. And at least for now, the Hurricane Center is not really all that enthused by it, given the upper air conditions. And last I checked, although I'll check it again now, um, we'll see what they've done on their 8 o'clock discussion here. Yeah, still 10%. So, there's a very low chance that this could wind up developing into anything. Thunderstorms breaking out in the plains. You can see the blow up of bright white cloud tops here across Nebraska into Kansas. Some pretty hefty thunderstorms there, and also back in the areas in eastern Wyoming down into eastern Colorado. West Coast is fine. Up and down the West Coast is beautiful, and most of the East Coast is looking good too. And here's the radar tonight. Nice looking line here of storms, Joe, moving across Wisconsin. We have some severe thunderstorm warnings. Not quite to Green Bay, but pretty. Maybe they may issue a warning for Green Bay in the coming minutes, and that snaking line goes down into Minnesota, and then we've got this next line of storms here back through Nebraska into Kansas with some severe thunderstorm warnings there. We have thunderstorms in New Mexico, the I-25 corridor again, with flash flood warnings in various counties in Colorado and in New Mexico, and some strong storms in eastern Montana. The west looking really good. There's nothing going on there. And then we have the Gulf Coast, okay, where we have showers and storms along the Florida west coast from Tampa northwestward to Tallahassee and then west toward Apalachicola and beyond, and then another band in southern Mississippi moving westward toward southeast Louisiana if it holds together. But we're in good shape. I mean, really, does with the the strong warming, we don't have any mechanisms in the northeast or mid-Atlantic states to set off storms, at least for tonight and tomorrow night and the first part of Friday.
And getting back to the question about whether or not on Friday there might be a slight risk of severe weather, if I recall, I did read briefly the discussion from SPC for Friday earlier today, and I recall them saying that if indeed the temperatures cool off a little bit more in the upper atmosphere over upstate New York and northern New England, that might be the area. Upstate New York and northern New England might be the area where on Friday they could add a slight risk threat for thunderstorms. In other words, they would go on the scale of 1 to 5, they would go for a 2. Marginal risk being a 1, slight risk being 2, moderate being 3. So you could see that, or enhanced. Enhanced would be 3 and moderate would be 4. But in
Right.
any case, so if there is any slight risk, and it may show up tomorrow or maybe first thing on Friday, it would more likely be up to the north as opposed to areas in the immediate New York area and points south.
They did expand the marginal risk, though, because this morning it was mostly northern New Jersey, northeastern Pennsylvania, north and east, and then they pushed the marginal risk down to Delaware, Maryland, northern Virginia, northern West Virginia, and southeast Ohio. So they seem to have been in a mood today to expand the marginal risk there. Tonight we've got 2 severe thunderstorm watches, as we pointed out earlier, and an area of slight risk from northeast Nebraska northeastward through Wisconsin and the upper peninsula of Michigan. Not much anywhere else other than areas of general thunderstorms. Tomorrow it's a marginal risk up and down on the east of the Rockies in the western plains, curves across North Texas, and then goes northeast through East Kansas, northern Missouri into Illinois, Wisconsin and Michigan, northern Indiana, and extreme northern Ohio for isolated severe thunderstorms. Notice there's a gap between that and the general thunderstorms that are going on are forecast for parts of the southeast and the Gulf states. And we showed you day 3 was the first map that I have up. As far as rain is concerned, half to 3/4 of an inch. Remember, with thunderstorms, if they're with convection, if they tend to be slow moving, you could wind up with double or triple the amounts that are being forecast in local areas, and that always opens up the door for the possibility of some flash flooding. We're looking at 1.5 inch amounts or higher from eastern Nebraska across Iowa, northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and southern Michigan. Also a stripe up into Wisconsin, and then along the Gulf Coast from the Florida Panhandle west across southern Louisiana. And let me just check WPC as far as flash flooding is concerned, because that's always an issue this time of year. There's a slight risk tonight to match the slight risk of severe weather from the Central Plains to the Western Lakes. But tomorrow, there's a slight risk from Kansas to Illinois and northwest Indiana, and that's inside that marginal risk zone. And then for Friday into Saturday, there is a slight risk area in Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, marginal risk in Pennsylvania, upstate New York, and northern New England. So there you have it, at least from that standpoint. So, as we look at the upper air, Mr. Rayo, not much has changed. Got the upper high off the East Coast near North Carolina, the ridge peaking in strength going into Friday, which is going to be our peak heat day. And then the winds aloft turn more northwest. You start to get little ripples that move along in the flow. And there's one in particular that comes on through on Friday a weak one on Saturday and a little bit more of a dent in the flow on Sunday. It's kind of hard to see, but trust me, it's there. And then as we move into next week, the upper high, and the models have been forecasting this for days, the upper high strengthens and moves westward from the Mississippi River Valley back into the plains. Well, we've got a nice looking trough dropping down into eastern Canada and into the northeast toward the latter part of next week. So I think we're still on course to get a nice dry and rather cool air mass for the end of next week and going into the first weekend of August. And beyond that, it's kind of an if flow. Trough pulls out, a couple of upper highs, upper low in between. So it looks like sort of an August doldrummy pattern after that trough goes by, unless there's something upstream that decides it wants to come down, which could very well be. But we're still on course for that next shot of dry, cooler air. We just have to wait till the latter part of next week to participate in that.
Yes, and as we said yesterday, it's so unusual. I mean, it's not unusual to get the first preview of the fall season in August. Usually in the mid or latter part of August, you get the first outbreak of unusually cool, dry Canadian air that funnels down from the north and west. But to get it this early, to get it right at the beginning of August, that's rather unusual. And if it does happen, I'll be the first to welcome it because we've certainly had more than our fair share of humid, sticky, and also warm to hot days here this summer of 2025.
Here comes the front for Friday, and you see the storms tomorrow. Not a whole lot. I mean, even into Western New York, they don't even get there. But then on Friday, you see them firing up Friday morning in upstate New York, and they actually get, yeah, this is at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There's an east, sort of an east, northeast, west, southwest line on the European pushing thunderstorms to the coast. And then, of course, after dark, they start to weaken. Then we move into Saturday where there are some spotty areas where you see some convection developing inland, but nothing widespread. Like I said, I would mention the possibility that there's a thunderstorm, especially if you're inland. Probably not if you're near the coast, but I still think you got to stick it in there. But this is where you on Sunday with this stronger little shortwave moving along, you can see the European has what looks like it's rather strong area of thunderstorms in Illinois that moves into Michigan and Ohio, and then fires up again in western New York early Sunday morning, and then drops across upstate New York and New England. And there's some big cells in there. We'll see what the next few days holds, how the models come to terms with this. After that, next week looks like we got a little front there on Tuesday. And then gradually, as we move through the latter part of the week, where we have the stronger push and the stronger high coming down with that cooler, drier air for probably have to wait till Friday of next week to get into that, and then the high spreads out for the first weekend of August. So nothing in the tropics to talk about, Joe. It's pretty quiet. I just have, I just want to say something because it really annoyed the crap out of me this morning. Uh, so apparently, I committed the mortal sin of calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of Mexico, as opposed to calling it the Gulf of America. And I'm kind of at this point now. It's like, I, I, you know, if this is the sort of thing that bothers you, you really need to see a therapist. You seriously need to seek professional help. If the fact that, and remember, and I think you will agree with me, Joe, regardless of what you think about whether it's the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America, the Weather Service is calling it the Gulf of America. The Weather Channel is calling it the Gulf of America. Most other places are calling it the Gulf of America. Fine. That's all fine and dandy. If you could please, in the audience, exercise a little bit of patience with two people who combined have almost 100 years of experience, so that for the last 45 or 47 years, depending on whether it's me or it's Joe, that for the last, 40 plus years, we've been saying Gulf of Mexico, and it's kind of a force of habit, okay? You're asking us to change the way we have said something since we were basically teenagers. So instead of, lashing out by leaving nasty comments on YouTube, on, not that this one was particularly nasty, but I thought it was going to go in that direction. Just try to be a little bit patient and a little bit kind. But if it's the sort of thing that gets you bent out of shape, that I say Gulf of Mexico, or if I say Gulf of America, because I I actually did this, Joe. I wrote a story on Newsbreak, which is a news app that you can get, and I purposely did this, where on back-to-back days, referring to uh, something was going on in the Gulf. Okay, something was going on in the Gulf. I can't remember the specifics, but on one day I called it the Gulf of Mexico. On the next day I called it the Gulf of America. And predictably, you know what happened. I had a bunch of comments on the day I called it Gulf of Mexico, lecturing me that it's called the Gulf of America. And on the day I called it the Gulf of America, I had a bunch of comments lecturing me that the real name is the Gulf of Mexico. Okay? It's a body of water. I could give a rat's ass whether it's Mexico or America, but apparently it pisses off some people. You know, what can I say? Seek help.
Well, the interesting thing is that you bring this up. Yesterday, I was watching the CBS Evening News, and Lonnie
with
Quinn.
Walter with Walter
Maybe it was,
Cronkite.
maybe it was Monday. I think it was last night, where Lonnie Quinn was doing the weather. This is on the national newscast with Dickerson and Maurice Dubois, and he in his discussion he pointed to the Gulf and he called it the Gulf of Mexico. And I turned to Renato when he said that, and I said I would not be at all surprised, considering all things considering now, as many of you are aware, things are going on with CBS. They are desperately trying, Paramount is desperately trying to get some kind of a merger together that's worth billions of dollars with another company, but
Skydance.
They need FCC approval, which happens to be under the thumb of the current administration. And so they are trying to appeal. They gave in and they settled a suit with 60 Minutes with the administration for $16 million. Of course, you know that Colbert now is being canceled as of next May because he made some comments apparently last week about
I don't think
a.
honestly, as far as
But in any
Colbert is
case,
concerned,
I
you
turned to
finish.
Renata. I turned to Renata after Lonnie last night said Gulf of Mexico, and I said I would not be at all surprised if Lonnie got either a phone call or a memo or an email from somebody in the CBS hierarchy saying, "You called it the Gulf of Mexico. Please do not do that again. Please call it the Gulf of America per President Trump." And I don't know if that happened. I could have emailed Lonnie to ask, but I'm not. I said I don't even want to bother doing that. I don't want to add extra pressure or anything to him. But it would not be at all surprising if that were the case. But I will say one other thing, and that is that so far as naming bodies of water or naming large areas of land, for example, the biggest, the tallest mountain in North America for many years was Mount McKinley. Then the Alaskans wanted it. The native Alaskans wanted it named after one of their founders or ancient
Right.
people.
The
President
Denali.
Obama did that,
Right.
and then it was changed back by the current president. Quite frankly, I think that if you're going to change the name of anything, you should have Congress and the House of Representatives, a lot more people than just one singular person saying, "All right, I'm signing an order. Here's the new name." And I think, for example, it was 1 year after John F. Kennedy was assassinated that Mayor Wagner made the suggestion to change Idlewild International Airport
The
to John
JFK.
F. Kennedy Airport. But it was not Mayor Wagner who was the one who changed it. He only suggested it, and I think it was put up to a vote by a number of officials in New York City and or New York State. It wasn't just one person who did it, and I think that's the way to go. So that's my own personal opinion about the Gulf, and I agree with you. From here on, if it's going to cause controversy, simply say the Gulf. But you and I have been doing this for so long, and Lonnie too,
Yeah.
that you just
That's
cannot
just
help yourself. You can't help yourself from
no.
saying Gulf of Mexico. It's a
When I'm
slip of the
talking
tongue.
when I'm
You know,
talking weather, I'm in a roll here. My brain is just kind of gears are just turning and a lot of stuff just comes out automatically, and that's what it is. Okay, but to make a deal about it, I mean, that's the thing that bugs me. I mean, you could sit here and argue the politics of it, and frankly, it doesn't. I could care less whether it's Gulf of Mexico or Gulf of America or Gulf of whatchamacallit, Gulf of Mex America, whatever it is. Okay, I really could give a rat's ass whatever it is. But when you have somebody that's watching this show that's dedicated to just doing weather on a day-to-day basis and looking at what's going on in terms of weather across the country and seasonal changes and all the rest and hurricanes and tropical storms and the nice weather days too. I mean, that's all we really care about. And then somebody comes on and instead of focusing on what we do, they're bent out of shape because I might have misspoken to at least to half the country anyway. So I honestly don't care which side of the political equation you're on. I think if you're whether you're on the left or on the right, if this is something that gets your dander up because I make a natural unintended mistake because I've been saying the Gulf of Mexico for 47 years, you really need to see a therapist and discuss the reason why your family members probably hate you and don't speak to you. Because if you're picking a fight over that, um, I just wonder about your mental capacity.
and it's the same thing here in New York. You know, the governor, the former governor, signed in a law or
Which
whatever and
one?
changed the
Which
tapping.
former
Changed,
governor? You have so many.
well, I'm talking about the Mr. Cuomo, who ended up getting the Tappan Zee Bridge named after his father,
Oh,
and
well,
yet
there you go.
there are some people who still refer to it
As a
on the
Tappan
radio
Zee,
as the Tappan Zee.
right?
I don't understand why if you have to why they can't call it the Tappan Zee / Cuomo Bridge,
Well, see,
or
Cuomo did it the right way. He did it very quietly in a midnight session of the legislature, who needed to sign off on it, or he wasn't going to let them go home. So there you go.
and even the RFK Bridge. I know a lot of people still make reference to the Triborough Bridge. It's now named after former Senator Robert F. Kennedy,
Well, and then
but
there's the Queensboro Bridge, which is the Ed Koch Bridge, but I've always
it,
called it the Queensboro Bridge, and I've always called it the Triborough Bridge.
right,
These are not,
right.
you know,
Old habits die hard.
they do.
So don't come after people if they say Gulf of Mexico. Don't come running after them and start screaming at them. It's in the same manner. Again, we've been doing it for all these many years, and it's just difficult to suddenly switch.
Yeah. It is. It was like I said, it was just I didn't even think about it. It didn't even occur to me until I read this comment that somebody left yesterday. And and I'm thinking, oh, it must have been when I was talking about the system off the southeast coast that was moving southwest, and I must have said, Gulf of Mexico instead of Gulf of America. I never gave it a second thought. And I have, I have purposely done it on past days where I've said, both of them just to keep both sides miserable. Um, so yeah, it just like the old habits die hard. Get over it, okay? It's right, David. Now it's a gulf of conflict. That's so true. Oh
And
well.
And our dear friend Mr. Contino saying Johnny Carson would never stoop so low. He's making comparisons now with
Well,
Colbert.
but
But
that was from a
I will
different.
tell you, here's a Johnny Carson joke, Tom, and here's now a reason for you to hate Johnny Carson. One time he said on one of his monologues, he said, "Do you realize that from the space shuttle there are only two objects that are man-made that are visible from the space shuttle over 200 miles up? The Great Wall of China and Donald Trump's hair."
All right, well that's all right, but that's something different, though. You're making fun of his hair. That's different. Carson made it a point not to get involved in controversial. I saw a clip just yesterday from in an interview he did. I think it was with Mike Wallace, who was asking him, "Why don't you, tackle controversial issues? Why don't you say something about certain things?" And Carson said, "It's like, you know, that's not my job. It's like I have an audience that has a wide vary of opinions politically. Why would I, you know, go on talk about a subject that's going to alienate half the people that, some of the people that watch me,
Absolutely, and in fact,
you know?"
Johnny, I think the interview you're making reference to, he was on the Phil Donahue show back in
Oh,
1970.
maybe it was Phil Donahue.
And
Okay.
somebody from the audience asked Johnny Carson, he says, "Why aren't you like Jack Parr?" Jack Parr was a very controversial figure on on the Tonight Show, and he there was a lot of stuff that he did and said that was political, and for some people, got very upset. And so this person asking Johnny Carson, "Why can't you be like Jack Parr?" And he said exactly what you said. "Why do I want to lose half of my audience?" You know, and he was an equal opportunity insulter. If he took a shot at somebody at the Democratic side, he
Right.
also took an equal shot at the Republicans too. You didn't really know what Johnny was, if he was a Democrat or a Republican, and that's the way I think it should be with all talk show hosts. But we live in a different time now,
Well,
Joe.
frankly, all those shows are unwatchable. Okay. First of all, I'm in bed at 9:30, so I don't think I've ever. I don't. I've never seen a show of Stephen Colbert's. I've seen clips. Okay, so what? If this is what they want to do, if they want to just get on, if all they want to do is just be talk about divisive politics on these shows, they're unwatchable. And you know what? Their audience sizes prove it. The audience size, you know, Colbert show is number one. Okay, yeah, you're number one. Um, what do you have? A million eyeballs? Okay, there's 20 times as many people watching Netflix at late night and watching anything else but uh, especially in that 18 to 35 demographic, which is what they make their bread and butter on. Um, so yeah, it's just to me, it's just who cares, really. It's just the least most important thing in my life. Uh,
I think the sad part about these talk shows, these nighttime shows, is they've watered down for example, when Colbert comes out or when Jimmy Kimmel comes out, for example, the first thing is the entire audience gives them a standing ovation every single night. They get a
oh,
standing ovation, and they have watered down the product. It used to be if you got a standing ovation, that was something very special. That was something that was amazing. It didn't happen very often. In fact, I can tell you that when Johnny Carson on the Tonight Show had the Apollo 13 astronauts, the astronauts had almost died in space because the service module blew up and they had to come back using the lunar module as a lifeboat. When they made their appearance on the Johnny Carson Tonight Show, they got a standing ovation. And Carson made the comment. He said, in the 7 years, because Johnny had been doing the show since 1962, in the 8 years that we've been doing the show, this is the first time we've ever had a standing ovation. And that was the way things were back then. If you got a standing ovation, it was for something very special. Now, every single night,
I
when
know.
Colbert comes out or when Kimmel comes out, and here they are, Stephen Colbert, and the whole audience just stands up and applauds, and that bothers me.
And but I
Save
agree.
that for save that
Save it for
for
something
something
that
very special.
when it matters. I agree. I totally agree with you. And also, I don't think you'll take issue with what I'm about to say. If these shows if these shows were actually making money, okay, I mean, if they were really making money for the networks, do you think they would have canceled the show? I don't think so. Okay. Uh, I really don't. I mean, I understand all the political pressures that are going on, and by the way, there's nothing new there. Okay, maybe the one thing that is new is that it's so open and that we all seem to know about it. This sort of stuff has been going on for the better part of the last, since television has been around, where politicians have put pressure on networks to take certain programs off the air and certain um, uh, certain programs that were aired in the 50s and 60s that didn't fare well in certain parts of the country. They were boycotted and all the rest of it. Bottom line is, if these shows really made money for the networks, they would find a way to keep it on. But the fact is that legacy media is dying. It's dying a very, very ugly death. Okay. So they're all too happy to get rid of something that's an albatross, and you're probably going to see more of it. Soap operas are gone for the most part, except for Terminal Hospital on ABC, and As the Stomach Turns on CBS. But almost all the soap operas are gone. Um, Most of the nighttime series are gone. You have a few here and there, but it's all peppered with reality shows and game shows, which are very, very cheap to produce compared to some of the other stuff. So it's over. It's a whole different world, and it's a whole different ball game. And these networks have to find different ways of making money. And because the old way has the old way has not worked and it's been on a steep decline for the last 5 years, and it's going to continue to circle the drain. And that's the reality of it.
Yep.
And
Well,
that's
considering that we were going to say that we were going to make this a short show tonight, and it's already 8:19, I think it's time for us to just close down and come back on
Yeah,
Sunday.
we'll save the Briller Jeopardy I have for Sunday, and we will be back because there's nobody to cancel us. Okay, we'll be back Sunday night at 7:35. So everybody enjoy the heat and humidity, and have a great weekend, and watch out for thunderstorms. We'll see you on Sunday.
Good night, folks. Enjoy the weekend.